What should the Tennessee Titans do after they take Jeremiyah Love? We'll look at all the different options and pick the best path forward on a Mock Draft Monday edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans. Today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, we are going to do 3-round mock drafts, and we're going to do 3 of them to talk about the different paths the Tennessee Titans could go if they take Jeremiyah Love in the first round. Before we dive in, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one, because this week is Titans Trio Week. On today's show, we're going to look at 3 different mock drafts that all start with Jeremiyah Love. I want you guys down in the comments, hit me up on social media, tell me which of these 3 mock drafts is the best for the Titans. We'll do mock drafts that start with an edge rusher tomorrow, start with Carnell Tate on the next day, start with Sonny Styles the next day, and then at the end of the week, we are going to take the best mock draft from every episode and put them head-to-head to see what the best path forward for the Titans in. So make sure that you stay locked in with the Locked On Titans podcast. Excited to see what you guys pick. But with that being said, we start with our first mock draft of the day. And I think this is my favorite mock draft of them all. Of course, we start with Jeremiyah Love at pick number 4. Get Jeremiyah Love in the fold. We have an offensive playmaker. We have an elite talent at the running back position. We're squared away there. Stick and pick it for Jeremiyah Love on the board. What do you do next? Well, I think there are only 3 different positions that the Tennessee Titans can seriously consider at number 35 if they start with Jeremiyah Love. Number 1 is going to be edge rusher. I will continue to tell you that edge rusher is a bigger need than people are talking about it as. Oh, we added Jermaine Johnson. There's Femi Oladipo. They added Jacob Martin and, all these different knockoff guys, you know what I mean, that add depth at the position. Speed edge rusher is still a massive need for the Titans. So when you talk about what has to come after Jeremiyah Love, I don't know that you could ignore edge rusher. Now, of course, wide receiver has to be part of that conversation as well. The Titans would have the choice to just stack out the start of the draft to help Cam Ward, and that's what a lot of people are talking about, right? So edge rusher, wide receiver, and then the final position that I would consider would be offensive line. Now, if one of the best offensive tackles in the draft fell to 35 and the Titans went with an offensive tackle, I would not be upset about it. I know that early in the draft process, I did not consider as much as I should have the possibility of going offensive line early, but if a Blake Miller, if Max Iannacore, Caleb Lumu, somebody like that, if one of those guys were to fall to 35, I think the Titans may be smart to get a year ahead of Dan Moore. And, I think J.C. Latham will do fine at offensive tackle, but maybe J.C. Latham is a guard, as a lot of his haters like to say. Taking an offensive tackle there wouldn't be the worst thing ever. Taking an interior offensive lineman, though, is probably what is most realistic. You think about an Emmanuel Pregnon. You think about a Chase Basantis, a Keelan Rutledge, who's getting some first-round buzz these days. Those are the top 3 guards that will likely be available if they are available at number 35. I think only 2 of those guys ends up being available at 35. But again, the conversation after Jeremiyah Love goes to wide receiver, interior offensive line, and edge rusher. And here's the problem and why I want to trade back, because you only have 2 picks after Jeremiyah Love in the top 100. How can you get all 3 of those guys? Now, you're at pick 101. Maybe you get that other version, but people want a linebacker. People want a cornerback. People want a tight end. Well, there's only so many picks. So out of those 3 spots, I had plenty of people on the board. You know what I mean? The top 6 wide receivers of Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper, KC Conception, Denzel Boston, all off the board. And I think they will all be off the board when the Tennessee Titans ultimately pick at 35. I don't think any of my sensational 6 wide receivers are going to be there. And if that's the case, can you take a Chris Bell, a Chris Brazzell, a Jeremy Bernard, a Ted Hurst? Can you take that guy at pick number 35? I don't think that you should, and I don't think that they can. So if I'm not going to take wide receiver, it comes down to edge or interior offensive line. And I still have Emmanuel Pregnon. Chase Basantis is off the board. Keelan Rutledge is there as well. I could go that route. But in this mock draft, I wanted to go edge rusher because I still am someone who prefers edge rusher at the top. And the edge rushing options are going off the board quickly here. There's no TJ Parker. There's no Keldrick Falk. But you know who is still available? Malachi Lawrence. I don't know if Malachi Lawrence is going to be there at 35 in the draft. I think he could go in the late 20s. But hey, there are always, we talked about the tackles, the wide receivers, the edge. Some of these guys are going to fall to 35. It's just the math. So I went with Malachi Lawrence from UCF. Great burst off the line of scrimmage. Has a bunch of different moves that he can go to. Super productive. Physical against the run. All right, this is a guy who can make an impact from day one and has the athleticism and the speed to be that Titans wide 9 speed rusher that can get downhill. I think that I would take Malachi Lawrence over a Keldrick Falk, a TJ Parker, guys like that, like Zion Young. I would prefer Malachi Lawrence because I want that speed. You know, that explosion off the line of scrimmage that Falk, Parker would be the other guy who I'm like, if TJ Parker's there, you got to take him because everybody regressed at Clemson in 2025. But again, I would take Malachi Lawrence over Zion Young or Keldrick Falk or TJ Parker. So he's there at 35 instead of those guys. I went with Malachi Lawrence. And then my final pick when we get to number 66, I can't ignore wide receiver anymore, and I have told you guys a million different times that they have to get a wide receiver in the first 2 days of the draft. Now, my options were Jeremy Bernard, Malachi Fields, Ted Hurst, Elijah Surratt, or Skylar Bell. And I got to tell you, it may not be the sexiest pick, but I went with Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. This guy, he reminds me of prime Robert Woods. Is he great at anything? He doesn't run 4.3 speed, doesn't have elite contested catch ability, isn't elite yards after catch, but he's just solidly good at everything. At everything. Really good route runner, good with the ball in his hands, good in contested catch situations. He's physical, he'll block, he'll do the dirty work. He's every coach's favorite wide receiver. Now, I know that the people are going to say, we need a wide receiver 1. We need a wide receiver 1. Okay, well, do you think that, you know, Chris Brazzell, Chris Bell, any of those guys should have been the pick at 35 instead? Because I don't think that that's great value, in my opinion. I think the edge rushers are better value there. So if the Titans went Jeremiyah Love, Malachi Lawrence, Jeremy Bernard, and then I think out of wide receiver, edge rusher, and interior offensive line, which are the Titans' 4 biggest needs, or 3 biggest needs, I think the odds of getting a starter at 101, the 4th round pick, are much higher with interior offensive line. And after I made those 3 picks of Love, Lawrence, Bernard, Logan Jones, Jake Slaughter, Matt Golban, Parker Brailsford, all still on the board. All still on the board. The Titans can get, I think, a starting interior offensive lineman, center particularly, which is why I place so much of an emphasis on getting Kevin Zeitler back, because it's much more likely the Titans can find a center if they go this path in round 4. And then you have Love, Lawrence, Bernard, and a starting center. Let's say Jake Slaughter out of Florida. Think about that start. So, to me, when we're looking at the trio of mock drafts, the Love triangles, we can call them, this one of Jeremiyah Love, number 1, Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher, number 2, Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver, at number 3, and then come back at the start of day 3 and get an interior offensive lineman. That is the best path forward for the Tennessee Titans if they take Jeremiyah Love at the top of the draft. That is my favorite of these 3. But I want to hear from you guys. What is your take on that mock draft? Do you like it? Do you like these other 2 that we're about to go over better? I'm going to take the pulse of the comments, the feedback that I get, and a winner will be crowned by the end of the week. So make sure you guys let me know. But now, let's go wide receiver in the second round and see what that looks like. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in, meeting a real person, and walking out knowing that your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire, and that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast to support this show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Again, beginning our mock trio week. We're doing love triangles on today's show. 3 mock drafts showing how the Tennessee Titans can start their draft if they go with Jeremiyah Love in the first round. Tomorrow will be an edge rusher. Then we'll do Carnell Tate. Then we'll do Sonny Styles. And at the end of the week, we'll put the best mock draft for every single start player against each other to see what's the best move for the Titans. Again, I'm getting your guys' feedback, so let me know down below in the comments. Hit me up on social media and tell me what was your favorite. My second draft of the day. Of course, again, we start with Jeremiyah Love at pick number 4, and then we come to pick number 35. And I want to go the wide receiver route. We went the edge route. What about helping Cam Ward with 2 playmakers back to back? Some may say that is the right route to go because supporting Cam Ward, developing Cam Ward, giving him enough to do his job is really what's most important for the Titans' development as a team going forward. So let's support Cam Ward. The Sin 6 are gone. The sensational 6 top wide receivers of Tyson, Tate, Lemon, Cooper, Concepcion, and Boston are gone. So what do? See, this is my problem. This is a conversation that I've been wanting to have. I thought, and I admit that I was wrong about this. I'll put a hand up. I'll put an L on the forehead. I don't care. Early in the draft process, with the way that the board was, I didn't think that Omar Cooper would be a first rounder. I didn't think that Casey Concepcion would be a first rounder. I wasn't certain that Denzel Boston would be a first rounder. I thought there was a chance that the wide receivers could slide a little bit, pushing one of those 3 guys down to the Titans at 35. I don't think that anymore. I think Concepcion and Cooper are going to go much higher. I think Tyson is going to go higher than what people think. I don't think that any of those guys make it to 35. If they are there, then that would blow all the other mock drafts out of the water, because now you get 2 first-round picks, you get Jeremiyah Love, the home run hitting running back, and you get one of the top 6 wide receivers in the draft. That's cooking. So I didn't want to spin the mock draft cycle over and over and over again until I got that outcome, because I don't think that outcome's coming. I think if the Titans want to take a wide receiver at pick number 35, it will be the next tier. It'll be Chris Brazzell. It'll be Chris Bell. It'll be Zachariah Branch. It'll be Jeremy Bernard. It'll be Ted Hurst, if you want to put him in that group. The Titans have met with Ted Hurst. There was a report from, I think it was Jordan Reed of ESPN. It might have been Matt Miller from ESPN. They did a joint article together. I forget who wrote it, but either way, those guys worked together and did an article where they said that the Tennessee Titans are most likely not going to take a wide receiver until round 3 or round 4, and Ted Hurst is a target for them. Now, how would they know that? That seems very specific, blah, 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 this and that. Is it true? I don't know. But I think if it is true, it does tell us the Titans do not see value at wide receiver at 35. And I think they're right. Again, I was wrong. I thought early in the process there would be value at wide receiver at 35. I say you take an edge rusher first because there's more value at wide receiver at 35, but I don't think that's right. Can you take Chris Brazzell, Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard, Ted Hurst? Can you take those guys at pick 35? I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. Chris Brazzell, elite potential, but the route running, the physicality, it's a Tennessee wide receiver. I like Chris Brazzell, but 35? Man, that's tough. That's tough. Chris Bell would have been a first-round wide receiver if not for the ACL tear. Big. I hate to be like this, but to give you guys, Chris Bell plays like A.J. Brown. He wins contested catch situations. He bullies cornerbacks. He'll catch a short drag route, turn on the jets, get down the sideline, and go 40 yards for a touchdown. He did it against Miami a couple times. And Miami's defense was nasty. If Chris Bell didn't tear his ACL, I think he'd be going 18 to 25 in the draft, just like Treylon Burks did. But he's a better route runner than Burks was. But anyway, can you take Chris Bell off an ACL tear, who his agent is saying he's going to be ready by training camp? He's going to be ready for the season. He's ahead of schedule. Is good, but is it true? I don't know. I don't think that you could take Jeremy Bernard there. I don't think that Zachariah Branch is a fit. You can't take Ted Hurst at 35. I think that's way overvalued. So I don't think that this is the best path. In my opinion, this is the third best path. I know that going running back, wide receiver seems like, oh, you're helping Cam Ward. But if the top 6 are off the board, I just don't like the value of taking one of those wide receivers right now. But for the purpose of this mock draft, give me Chris Bell. Again, Chris Bell would go in the first round if not for the ACL. So if you're a team like the Titans and you're not contending for the Super Bowl, you're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. You just want to win 6, 7 games and improve and start paddling the boat the right direction, right? This is why people say the Titans aren't in a position to take projects. The Titans aren't. Yes, they are. A team that can't take a project, in my opinion, is a team that needs to win right now. If you're a championship contending roster and you need dividends right now, you need to push all in for a championship. You cannot wait for a project. Now, there's a line in the sand where if you have such a stacked roster, now it goes the other way. But those are the pockets. Rebuilding teams can take a chance on a project because they don't need production right away because the expectations are not that they're title contending. And then there's a large gap of people who should not be taking projects. And then the absolute best rosters in the NFL then can take a chance on projects because their roster is so stacked, like a Broncos or an Eagles, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like 4 or 5 teams at the top, and then the 4 or 5 teams at the bottom are the teams that should be taking projects. Because the Titans are a team that you take a guy like Chris Bell at pick 35. It may not work. The ACL, blah, 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 but the Titans should be a team that is hoping for some home runs because you need superstar players And it's going to take two, if you just draft guys, because you're not finding elite superstars in free agency. You draft elite superstars. And if you're the Titans and you don't have a good roster and you have to find a way to get more superstars than what your first round pick selection is going to allow for you, taking a guy like Chris Bell at 35 is the best path if we're going wide receiver. So I went with Chris Bell at pick number 35 after Jeremiyah Love, which brings us to the third pick, and we got to go edge or we got to go interior offensive line. And at interior offensive line, there was Jennings, Dunker, and then the centers, Connor Lew, Jake Slaughter, Logan Jones. I don't see the value in taking an interior offensive lineman at 66 if Jennings, Dunker is the only guard available. Again, I think I like Basantis and Pregnone and Rutledge way better than I like Jennings, Dunker. So if it's Dunker or an edge rusher, I'm going back to edge rusher. I just think that speed edge rush position is such a bigger need than what a lot of people realize. So Romello Height, Joshua Josephs, Jayshon Barham. I've done Joshua Josephs a lot. So in this love triangle, I went with Kieron Crawford, the explosive speed rusher out of Auburn. Great football character, physical against the run, explosive athlete, good length. I like Kieron Crawford. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NFL draft right now. I think he's one of those edge rushers that I didn't really give a lot of credence to as an option on day two, but I think Kieron Crawford would be an excellent pick. So you get Jeremiyah Love at running back. You go Chris Bell for a high upside, number one potential wide receiver in the second round. We'll wait for him to get back from the ACL, just like we did with Kevin Winston. We might get 2 first-round talents going that way, and then we hit our speed rusher with Kieron Crawford. We come back at 101. We get a starting center with one of those guys I talked about before. So right now, it's either Jeremiyah Love, Malachi Lawrence, and Jeremy Bernard, or Jeremiyah Love, Chris Bell, and Kieron Crawford. That's running back, wide receiver, and edge in different combinations. I like both of those paths, but I will say the first one is significantly better than the second one that we just did with Chris Bell. But the third one we're about to do is actually my second favorite. I like it a lot better. And after Jeremiyah Love, we give him someone who can block for him. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. The app makes it super easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, matchups, all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at the stars, role players, and key moments. And the best part is you can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. I will tell you one thing. There's a lot of teams that you can bet on. I would not bet on my Los Angeles Lakers right now. The team is completely falling apart. But either way, whether you don't want to bet on the Lakers, you want to bet on somebody else, make sure that you head to FanDuel.com to get started. Again, that's FanDuel.com. FanDuel. Play your game. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Again, we are doing our Tennessee Titans trios 3-round mock drafts. What's the best 3-player start the Titans can have? Today is Jeremiyah Love. Tomorrow is edge rusher. The next day is Carnell Tate. Then we'll have Sonny Styles. We did Jeremiyah Love, Malachi Lawrence, and Jeremy Bernard as the first one. That's my personal favorite. Then we went Jeremiyah Love, Chris Bell, Kieron Crawford. Now I want to get a blocker for Jeremiyah Love as the second-round pick and then go to our third-round selection. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen listen each and every day. Speaking of every day, you guys got to join the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. If you're a true everydayer, then I know that you're on the list. The link to join is down below in the description. It's basically the cost of a cup of coffee each month. I give you guys free year-round Tennessee Titans content on multiple different platforms and everything. It's a small way to support me and support the show, and you get perks. You get ad-free versions of the podcast in your podcast feed that you're already using. You also get added to the Locked On Titans group chat. You get access to a Locked On merch store. Check out the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. Hit the link down below in the description. But with that being said, again, we go to our final mock draft, our final Titans trio, our final love triangle. And after Jeremiyah Love at number 4 in the first round, I give him a starting guard. I think that when you start to look at what value could be on the board, we talked about edge rusher. We talked about how wide receiver, not great value at 35. I think there is tremendous value at interior offensive line. I think Keelan Rutledge, Emmanuel Pregnone, Chase Basantis, one of those guys is going to be available at pick 35, and I think all of them would be smart picks. Now, me personally, I like Emmanuel Pregnone the most. I like Keelan Rutledge the second most, and I like Chase Basantis the third. But the Tennessee Titans have met with Chase Basantis. He is very, very similar, in my opinion, to Peter Skoronski. Now, and this is my opinion, but I think that Brian Daboll, in his system, he likes bigger-bodied, heavy guards, not athletic guards. I think that Daboll likes more athletic centers and then bigger-bodied, heavier guards. But if I am wrong, which I may be wrong, and they prefer more athletic guards, then Chase Basantis is a great pick. And him and Peter Skoronski being similar players, can do similar things, gives you tremendous value in your offense because whether you're running a run play either direction, you know that your guard can handle it. And I would tell you that Basantis is a better pass protector than he is a run blocker, and that's why, in my opinion, I think Brian Daboll would prefer the other options because Daboll is more of a power run. Everybody talks about the QB development, but you know why he's so good at QB development? Because he has a strong run game to support his young quarterback. Whether it was Saquon in New York with Daniel Jones, whether it was the Giants were a top 5 rushing team in the NFL last year with Jackson Dart. People forget about that. The Bills, when Daboll was there with Josh Allen, their run game was actually the higher ranked of the pass game run game. So Brian Daboll, Alabama, running the football, Brian Daboll has been more of a run-first coordinator than a pass-first coordinator, and you maybe wouldn't think that based on the QB kind of guru tag that he gets in conversations. So, in my mock draft, with all of that being said, at number 2, Emmanuel Pregnone and Vega Ione were off the board. So I had to choose between Keelan Rutledge and Chase Basantis. And the Titans may very well prefer Basantis, but I prefer Rutledge, so I went with Keelan Rutledge. And interesting enough, Rutledge was actually in Peter Schrager. Peter Schrager, one of the most tapped in, knowledgeable, ear to the ground journalists covering the NFL period. If you aren't paying attention to Peter Schrager's mock drafts, he only does a couple every year. If you aren't paying attention to those to glean some information, you're doing it wrong. He knows what he's talking about. Doesn't mean that he's right on everything, and he's gotten picks wrong for teams, but there's some clear information that you can gain from a Peter Schrager mock draft. He had Keelan Rutledge at pick number 31 to the Patriots. Now, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think the Patriots would take a guard. But that's Peter Schrager saying, I've heard Keelan Rutledge in the first round, at the end of the first round. He's heard that. So I don't think it would be crazy to take. A lot of people are like, oh, I mocked Keelan Rutledge in the 3rd round. I'm not taking Keelan Rutledge, ain't lasting to 66. The value at interior offensive line at guard specifically is going to come off the board late 1st round, early 2nd round. That's where the value on those guys are. So I am going to go with Keelan Rutledge, a big, thick, sturdy, mauling run blocker with powerful hands to stone pass rushers in their tracks. He is elite at picking up twists and stunts. The big thing I got off Keelan Rutledge's film was seeing his head snap as stunts were coming his way. So good on twists and stunts. Such great IQ. So powerful. Strong hands. He's not an elite athlete. Not elite change of direction. But for a guy he just looks like an old school classic guard. And him and J.C. Latham would dominate, folks. So give me Keelan Rutledge. But we have gone Jeremiyah Love. We've gone Keelan Rutledge. What do we do at pick 66? I had the choice between edge rusher and wide receiver. Also, Anthony Hill at linebacker. I really like Anthony Hill out of Texas. If the Titans go linebacker on day 2, that's who I want. But Danny Dennis Sutton, Romello Height, Joshua Josephs, or Zachariah Branch, Ted Hurst, Elijah Surratt. Again, I don't think Branch is a great fit for the Titans because they have so many people who can play in the slot, and we know that the Titans have some reported interest in Ted Hurst. I went with Ted Hurst. I think a lot of you guys are going to love this love triangle the most. This is all offense. You really want to support Cam Ward? We go all offense with this draft. Jeremiyah Love, Keelan Rutledge, Ted Hurst, running back, guard, wide receiver. I really like this one. This is my second favorite. Again, my favorite was the first love triangle. Jeremiyah Love, Malachi Lawrence at edge, Jeremy Bernard at wide receiver. My second favorite, Jeremiyah Love, Keelan Rutledge in round 2, Ted Hurst in round 3. My third favorite out of the 3, Jeremiyah Love, Chris Bella in the second round, Kieron Crawford in the third round. Now, if you replaced Kieron Crawford with Jennings Dunker, maybe you guys would like that one better. Maybe that would vault that up to the top. Let me know. Again, let me know. What is your favorite mock draft out of the 3? What's your favorite love triangle? 1, 2, or 3? I will announce the winner on tomorrow's episode where we look at edge rushers so that you know which of those 3 mock drafts will be in the final competition at the end of the week. But again, so excited to do this interactively with you guys. Hit me up on any social media. Hit me up in the comments on YouTube. Hit me up in the Locked On Titans Everyday or group chat, folks. But that's going to do it for me today. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.